I was sitting on the edge of the couch, waiting for the call. It was a call I had been anxiously anticipating for days. My sister, Emilia, was about to undergo surgery. It wasn't the kind of procedure you could take lightly, and I had promised her I would be there. She needed me, but as I sat there, trying to calm my racing thoughts, my phone buzzed, shattering the fragile peace I had tried to create in my mind. I picked it up without looking at the screen, just out of habit, knowing it would be Caleb, or at least, I hoped it would be. "Caleb?" I said, trying to sound normal, trying to hide the worry in my voice. But the moment I heard his voice, I knew something was wrong. "Hey, I'm out with Emily," he said, his voice a little too casual. "We're doing some shopping, but I'll call you when we're done. It's going to be a while." Emily. The name sliced through the air like a razor. Emily, the woman who had always lingered in the background of our marriage, his first love, the one he never really let go of. And now, as I sat in the middle of my worst fear, there it was. He was with her. The anger hit me before I could even process it, but I tried to keep my voice steady. "Caleb," I said, my voice low, "Emilia's surgery is today. You promised you'd be there for her." I could hear the hesitation in his voice. A quick, almost mechanical response. "Emilia, relax. It's just a minor delay. The surgery can be rescheduled. We'll talk later, okay? We'll talk later?" I couldn't hold back anymore. I stood up, pacing the room, feeling the weight of his words pressing down on me like a suffocating blanket. "You've got to be kidding me," I snapped. "You're choosing her. Again. She's always the priority, isn't she, Caleb?" There was a long pause on the line, and I almost felt like he was waiting for me to back down, to apologize for being upset. But I wouldn't apologize. Not this time. I could feel my chest tighten as I tried to control the rage boiling inside of me. "You're with Emily, and I'm supposed to be fine with it? You're with her while your wife, your family is sitting here waiting for you to keep your promise." There was a deep silence before Caleb responded, and when he did, it hit harder than any of his previous excuses. "Emilia, you need to calm down. You're overreacting. It's just shopping. It's not the end of the world. Just shopping?" I couldn't believe my ears. The words left my mouth before I could stop them. "You're choosing her over us again. Don't you get it? I can't keep doing this, Caleb. I can't keep pretending like everything's fine when I know it's not. You've been lying to me for so long." There was no apology in his voice, no understanding. Just a coldness that made me feel like the last few years of my life had been a lie. "Emilia, I told you. I'll call you when I'm done." His tone was dismissive now, as if our marriage meant nothing. And with that, he hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand, the silence deafening in the aftermath of the call. But the silence wasn't enough to hide the truth that had just crashed into me. Caleb had chosen Emily. Again, the silence after Caleb's call was suffocating. The weight of his words, the coldness in his voice, lingered long after the line went dead. It felt like the ground beneath me had cracked open, leaving me in the middle of a chasm I didn't know how to climb out of. I tried to steady my breath, tried to calm the whirlwind of emotions spinning in my chest. He's with her again, choosing her over me. I tried to remind myself that this wasn't new. This wasn't the first time I had been abandoned for her, but the hurt still hit like the first time. Raw, fresh. I sat down on the edge of the couch, my mind racing, my heart pounding. How had I gotten here? Why had I let him drag me through this cycle of betrayal and heartbreak? Why had I kept holding on to someone who couldn't even see me? Someone who was always so willing to put Emily before me. No more. I told myself, I won't do this anymore. I tried to focus on something else, anything else, but my mind kept coming back to the same painful truth. Caleb wasn't mine. He hadn't been for a long time. And every time I convinced myself things would get better, he proved me wrong. He wasn't the man I had married, and I wasn't the woman I had been when I married him. The phone buzzed on the table beside me, and I grabbed it without thinking. Another message from Caleb. "I'm sorry if I upset you. I didn't mean to. I'll make it up to you when I get back. Promise." The words blurred before my eyes as I read them again and again. He was sorry? Really? After everything? How many times had he said this before? I set the phone back down, my hands shaking. It wasn't enough. It wasn't even close to enough. His apologies had stopped meaning anything the day he chose Emily over me. How many more times would I have to forgive him? I asked myself, the question ringing in my ears. How many more times would I let him tear me apart before I finally had enough? And yet, a part of me still wanted to believe him. A part of me still wanted to believe in the man he used to be. The man who would surprise me with gifts. The man who would listen to my every word. The man who swore he would love me forever. But forever was a lie. It always had been. I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep pretending like he hadn't already chosen her. I stood up and walked to the bedroom, opening the drawer where I had hidden the divorce papers. I had kept them there for weeks now, unsure whether I could follow through with it. But now, I knew. It was time. The papers trembled in my hands as I pulled them out, my heart racing. I had been waiting for the right moment, for the moment when I could say enough. This was that moment. Caleb's indifference, his betrayal, his constant choosing of Emily had all led me here. And I was done. I signed my name with trembling fingers, the weight of the decision settling in my chest like a stone. But there was no turning back. This was it. This was the end of the road. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. I hesitated for a moment, unsure whether I should even answer it. But I knew who it was before I opened the door. There stood Julian Rhodes's, Caleb's father, his face etched with concern. "Emilia," he said softly, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "I heard about the surgery. How's Emilia doing?" I forced a smile, trying to hide the turmoil that was roiling inside me. "She's fine. The surgery got delayed, but she'll be okay." Julian's eyes softened, but then he hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully. "I know this has been difficult for you. I'm sorry, Emilia, for everything. But Caleb, he's having a hard time. I think he realizes how much he's hurt you." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the divorce papers in his face and tell him exactly what I thought of his son. But instead, I just nodded. "He always realizes it too late, doesn't he?" I said quietly, my voice shaking. "He only cares when it's too late." Julian looked at me, regret written all over his face. I know, Emilia. I'm sorry, but you deserve more than this. You deserve someone who will love you the way you deserve to be loved." I couldn't bring myself to look him in the eyes. "It doesn't matter anymore," I whispered. "I'm done waiting for him to choose me. I've been waiting for years. And he's already chosen her. He's already chosen Emily." Julian was silent for a moment. Then he stepped forward and placed a hand on my shoulder. "I'm not asking you to forgive him, but I want you to know, you don't have to go through this alone." I nodded, forcing a smile, but the tears were threatening to spill over. I wasn't crying for Caleb anymore. I wasn't crying for the man who had abandoned me. I was crying for myself, for the woman I had become, and for the strength I still had to find. The following days felt like a blur. I was trapped in the same cycle, waiting for Caleb to return, waiting for him to show up and say something that would make everything okay again. But deep down, I knew it wasn't going to happen. The phone calls came, the apologetic texts, but each one only served to remind me that nothing had really changed. Each message, each phone call, felt like a piece of Caleb trying to keep me attached to a life that no longer existed. It was as if he believed that if he said the right words, I would fall back into his arms, that I would forget all the pain, the betrayal, the years of waiting. But it wasn't that simple. It wasn't that easy. I was done. I had to remind myself that every time my phone buzzed, every time his name flashed on the screen, I was stronger than I had been the day before. I wasn't the same woman who had begged him to love me. I wasn't the same woman who had tolerated his distance, his coldness. That version of me was gone. But even as I felt myself pulling away, there was a part of me weak, foolish, that still wanted to believe in the man I had once married. The man who promised me the world. The man who swore we would grow old together. That part of me hated how easily I had convinced myself to walk away. The silence in the house was deafening. Every room echoed with memories of Caleb. The kitchen, where we had spent countless hours cooking meals together. The living room, where we had spent late nights talking about our future. The bedroom, where we had once shared the deepest parts of ourselves. It all felt like a lie now. But as I walked through the house, I realized something important. I wasn't just walking through the house. I was walking through the ruins of my past, through the life I had built around Caleb, a life that no longer fit me. I was finally leaving it behind. The next morning, as I sat at the kitchen table, I stared at the pile of bills, the empty coffee cup in front of me. My thoughts drifted, as they often did, to Caleb, to Emily. But then, something changed. A message popped up on my phone. And this time, it wasn't Caleb. It was Emily. Emilia, I know you probably hate me right now, but I really need to talk to you. Caleb is a mess. He's been trying to call you, and I think he's starting to realize what he's lost. Please, just talk to him. I felt a wave of frustration flood over me. What did she want? Why now? I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but the last thing I wanted was another conversation with Emily. She had always been the other woman, the shadow in my marriage, the one who never left, even when she wasn't physically around. I debated for a moment, my thumb hovering over the screen. But then, with a deep breath, I typed back, I don't need to talk to him, Emily. I'm done. And so is he. It's not your fault, but it's not mine either. I hit send before I could second guess myself. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel angry. I just felt empty. By the time the evening came, I had heard nothing from Caleb. And as much as I hated to admit it, I realized that his silence was the final confirmation that I had been looking for. Caleb wasn't coming back. He wasn't going to make things right. He wasn't even trying to fix what he had broken. And with that realization came a deep, aching sense of loss, but also a strange, quiet sense of freedom. The kind of freedom that comes from knowing you don't have to wait anymore. But that didn't make it easier. I tried to focus on work the next day. It was the only thing that kept me grounded, the only thing that gave me purpose in the midst of all this pain. But the constant reminder of Caleb and Emily was never far behind. Their faces, their messages, their unresolved drama, everything kept coming back over and over again. I had to confront him. I had to. I couldn't just let this fester. Let this anger and confusion eat me alive. I sent him a message. I need to talk to you. I'm not doing this anymore. You can't keep ignoring what's happening. I need answers. His response came almost immediately. I know, Emilia. I know I messed up. I don't know what else to say. I stared at the message, feeling my heart ache. But deep down, I knew there was nothing left to say. He had already said it all without saying a word. I texted him back. It's not about apologies, Caleb. It's about actions. It's about the years I spent waiting for you to see me. I can't keep doing this. I set the phone down, my hands trembling. I felt like I was walking into a trap, that the conversation would only leave me more broken than before. But I couldn't keep avoiding him. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. The following days felt like a slow, painful unraveling. I couldn't escape the thoughts of Caleb, no matter how much I tried to push them aside. His messages, his apologies, the empty promises of change. Each one felt like a dagger to my chest, not because I still wanted him back, but because it reminded me of how little I had meant to him all these years. How little I had meant in the life he was choosing to live with Emily. The tension was unbearable, like a constant weight on my chest that never let up. Every time my phone buzzed, every time I saw a message from him, my heart would race in anticipation, only to be met with the same hollow words. Emilia, I'm sorry. Please let me explain. Every time I would read it, feel the anger rise, and then put the phone down. I wasn't sure what I was waiting for anymore. I wasn't sure what he could possibly say that would make any of this better. There was no magic word, no apology that could erase the years of neglect, the years of feeling invisible. The years of her standing between us, no matter how many times Caleb tried to convince me that I was the one he loved. But I wasn't sure if I was lying to myself when I said that the words didn't affect me anymore. The truth was, they did. They cut deeper than I was willing to admit. I couldn't help it. It wasn't just Caleb anymore. It was me too. I had been so blind, so desperate for a version of him that never existed. I had convinced myself that one day, he would come around, that one day, things would be different. But now, I knew better. One evening, after a long, grueling day at work, I came home to an empty house. I hadn't heard from Caleb all day, and at first, I felt relief. But that relief quickly faded into something else, something darker, something that gnawed at me, deep in my chest. It was loneliness. I stood in the living room, the silence ringing in my ears. The house felt too big, too empty. For years, I had filled this space with Caleb's presence, with his promises, with the life I thought we were building. Now it was just me. And even though I had always told myself that I could handle it, that I was strong enough, the reality was much harder than I had ever anticipated. I walked to the window, my mind drifting back to the times when things had felt easier. When Caleb had chosen me, the times when his love had felt real, when I thought we had something worth fighting for. But that wasn't the reality anymore. And deep down, I knew it never had been. I grabbed my phone from the counter and scrolled through the messages again. And there it was, another one from Caleb. "I'm sorry for everything, Emilia. I can't change the past, but I want to make things right. Please let me come home. Please, I need you." I felt a lump form in my throat as I read the words. He wanted to make things right? After everything? After her? After the years of disappointment and heartbreak? I didn't respond immediately. I couldn't. Part of me wanted to scream, wanted to tell him exactly how much he had hurt me. But the other part of me, the part that still loved him, that still clung to the memory of who he used to be, was torn. So, I did the only thing I could think to do. I called him. The phone rang several times before he picked up. "Emilia," he said, his voice hoarse. "I'm glad you called." I didn't respond right away. My heart was pounding in my chest, the tension in my body almost unbearable. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, and all I had to do was take one step forward, and everything would fall apart. "Emilia," he said again, his voice softer this time. "Please don't hang up. I need to talk to you." I squeezed my eyes shut. "Talk to me, Caleb. What do you want to say? You've already said it all, haven't you? You've chosen Emily over me so many times. She is who you want, Caleb, not me. And I'm done being second. I'm done waiting for you to choose me." There was silence on the other end, and then I heard him speak, his voice barely a whisper. "I never wanted to hurt you, Emilia. You know that, right?" I closed my eyes, trying to steady myself. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that he cared. But how could I? How could I believe anything he said when every action of his told me otherwise? "I can't keep doing this," I said, my voice breaking. "I can't keep pretending like things will change. You've hurt me, Caleb, over and over again, and I don't think I can keep forgiving you." He didn't say anything. He didn't argue or try to make excuses. He just let the silence hang there, thick and suffocating. "I'm done," I said quietly. "I'm done." I hung up the phone before I could hear Caleb's response, the weight of the conversation heavy in my chest. I didn't need to hear more of his apologies. I didn't need to hear how sorry he was. The truth was, I was the one who was sorry for wasting so many years, for believing in a love that was never really there. But as I sat there, holding the phone in my hand, a new wave of emptiness washed over me. The finality of it all hit me like a punch to the gut. "I'm done." I had said the words out loud, but even as they left my lips, I wasn't sure if I truly believed them. Could I really walk away from everything I had invested in this marriage? Could I really let him go? I wasn't sure, but I had no other choice. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the panic rising in my chest. The silence around me was deafening, and I could feel the weight of the empty house closing in. It wasn't just the silence of Caleb's absence. It was the silence of me, the woman I had almost forgotten I was. I hadn't been this woman in a long time. The woman who didn't revolve her life around someone else's whims. The woman who didn't wait for someone else to tell her she was worthy. But now, with Caleb's absence, I was forced to confront the woman I had become. And for the first time, I didn't recognize her. The phone buzzed again. I looked at the screen, expecting it to be Caleb, but it wasn't. It was Emily. "Emilia, I know this is hard for you, but I need to talk to you. Caleb wants you back. I know things are complicated, but we can fix this. Please, just hear him out." I couldn't help it. I laughed bitterly. Fix this? How could she say that with a straight face? How could she think that after everything, I would want to hear Caleb out? I felt a surge of anger. I wanted to throw the phone across the room, to scream at her for being so naive. But then, something deeper inside me stirred something more painful. A part of me that still wanted to believe that Caleb could choose me, that he could finally see what he was throwing away. But that part was fading, fast. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Instead, I tossed my phone onto the coffee table, pushing myself to my feet. I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep fighting for something that wasn't mine. I had to take control of my life again. I had to be the one to decide what my future looked like. The days following that conversation felt like an emotional roller coaster. I couldn't escape the sadness that seemed to follow me everywhere. Caleb's absence was like a gaping hole in my life. There were moments when I thought I could move on, when I felt like I was finally free. But then those moments were drowned by the weight of the past. And then, of course, there was Emily. I had tried to keep her out of my mind. I had told myself that if I just ignored her, if I didn't think about her, I could move on. But the truth was, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Every time I saw a message from her, every time I heard Caleb's name, it was like a punch to the gut. She was always there between me and Caleb, between me and the life I thought we had. But I couldn't keep blaming her anymore. The truth was, Caleb had made his choice, and he had chosen her every single time. I had to stop pretending. I had to stop waiting for Caleb to choose me. But as much as I tried to move on, the next message from Caleb came, and I couldn't bring myself to ignore it. Emilia, I need you. I've messed up. I know that. But please, let's fix this. We can't just walk away from what we've built. You're everything to me. Please, just talk to me. I read it over and over again, feeling the weight of his words. You're everything to me. But weren't those the same words he had said to me before? Weren't those the same words that had meant nothing when he was out with Emily? When he was choosing her over me? I felt the familiar tug of desire, the desire to believe him, to forgive him, to hope that maybe this time, he would change. But deep down, I knew I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep giving him the power to destroy me, to make me feel like I wasn't enough. I couldn't let him keep making me feel like I was the one who was crazy for wanting him to be present, for wanting him to love me the way he promised he would. But I couldn't deny the pain that still burned in my chest. I couldn't ignore the part of me that still wanted him. I didn't respond to Caleb's message right away. Instead, I stood there, staring at the screen, feeling the suffocating weight of it all. This wasn't just about Caleb. It wasn't just about Emily. It was about me. It was about choosing me over him. It was about standing up for myself and saying, I deserve better than this. I took a deep breath, finally making the decision. I grabbed my phone again, my fingers trembling as I typed the message. Caleb, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep waiting for you to choose me. You've made your choice, and I have to respect that. I deserve more than this. I deserve someone who will love me the way I need to be loved. I'm done. I'm walking away. It's over. I hit send before I could second guess myself. The words were final, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. The days that followed were a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I had made my decision. I had finally done it, let go of Caleb. And yet, the weight of the finality of it all still hovered over me. I thought I would feel free, but instead, I felt more lost than ever. I spent most of my time at work, throwing myself into projects just to distract myself from the gnawing loneliness that settled into my bones. The nights were the hardest, though. The quiet, the stillness, the absence of Caleb's presence, it all felt so unnatural. I hadn't been alone in so long, hadn't been truly alone. Not since we got together, not since I had made him my whole world. But now, I was starting to feel the consequences of that. I had built my identity around him, around us. And now, with him gone, there was an uncomfortable silence where I had once felt safe. The messages from Caleb kept coming. I tried to ignore them, but they haunted me, flickering on my phone like a beacon, a constant reminder of what I had left behind. I'm sorry. Please talk to me. I made a mistake. I need you, Emilia. Please. I don't want to lose you. I couldn't bring myself to read them, not fully. I had seen the pattern too many times, and each time I gave in, each time I let myself believe his empty words, it only led to more heartbreak. So, I deleted them, one by one. Each notification felt like a small victory, but it didn't stop the ache. I wasn't sure how long I could keep this up. I wasn't sure how long I could keep pretending like I wasn't still emotionally tied to him. Like the thought of him with Emily didn't tear at my insides. But I knew I couldn't go back. No matter how much I wished for things to be different, no matter how much I longed for the version of Caleb I had fallen in love with, I couldn't keep clinging to something that wasn't real. The truth settled in, heavier with each passing day. Caleb had already chosen her. He had chosen Emily 1,000 times over, and I had been left waiting for a man who would never be mine again. One evening, after work, I found myself in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection, wondering who I had become. Who was I now? Without him, without the constant push and pull, without the cycle of love and rejection. I had been so consumed by Caleb that I had forgotten who I was before him. I had forgotten that there was a life for me outside of the relationship. But how could I find my way back to myself when all I had known for so long was built on a lie? A knock at the door snapped me out of my thoughts. My heart skipped in my chest. It couldn't be Caleb. He wouldn't just show up. He knew better than that. I walked to the door and opened it, expecting nothing but the quiet of the evening. Instead, I was met with an unexpected sight. It was Emily. I froze for a moment, unsure of how to react. I hadn't seen her in months, not face to face. And honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted to. What was there left to say? What could she possibly want? But she was standing there, looking at me with an unreadable expression. "Emilia," she said softly, "I know this isn't the best time, but I need to talk to you." I didn't invite her in. I just stood there, my heart pounding, unsure of what she was doing on my doorstep. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice sharp, betraying the calm I was trying to maintain. I don't expect you to forgive me," Emily said, her voice soft, almost pleading. "But I need you to understand something." I didn't move, didn't invite her in. I didn't need to hear any more excuses from her. What could she possibly say that would make all of this hurt less? "I'm not here to hurt you, Emilia," she continued, her eyes meeting mine with an honesty that made me pause. "I never wanted to come between you two. But Caleb, he's been telling me things that I think he needs to say to you. But he's too scared. He's too stubborn to admit that he's lost you." I felt a pang of something in my chest, surprise, confusion, maybe even a little hope, but I quickly squashed it. I didn't need her to try to fix this. She couldn't fix this. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice cold, my walls already going up. "Why do you think I need to hear it from you?" She hesitated, glancing down at her feet before meeting my gaze again. "Because I think you deserve to know. Caleb needs you, Emilia. He's messed up, but I don't think he wants to lose you." "Lose me? After everything, after all the pain and betrayal, he needed me?" The thought made my stomach twist. "I'm done," I whispered, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. "I can't keep living this lie, Emily. I can't keep waiting for Caleb to choose me. He never has. Not really." Emily looked at me with sympathy in her eyes. "I know you're hurting," she said, her voice quiet, "but I don't want you to be alone. And I don't think Caleb does either." I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how unfair it was, how everything she was saying was a joke. But the anger that had consumed me for so long was beginning to fade, replaced with something even more painful: exhaustion. I was tired of the drama, tired of the fight. "I don't want to be a part of this anymore," I said, my voice firm. "I'm done with both of you." Emily opened her mouth to say something, but I cut her off. "Please, just go. There's nothing left for me here." She hesitated for a moment, then nodded slowly. Without another word, she turned and walked away, leaving me standing in the doorway, feeling more alone than I ever had. The next few days felt like I was trapped in a fog, unable to see clearly, unable to breathe without feeling the weight of everything that had happened. I had told Emily to leave, but the emptiness lingered long after she was gone. Caleb's absence had already left a hole in my life, and now I had to learn how to fill it, or at least learn how to live with it. I went through the motions, doing my best to keep up with work, but my mind kept returning to Caleb, to Emily, to the life I thought I had. Each time my phone buzzed, I would freeze, waiting for a message that never came. There were no more apologies from Caleb, no more promises, just silence. And that silence was the loudest thing I had ever heard. I spent nights tossing and turning, unable to sleep, unable to find peace. I kept seeing his face in my mind, the way he used to look at me, the way he promised me forever. And then, just as quickly, the image would shift to the cold, distant man he had become. The man who couldn't even show up for the woman he had married. The man who always chose her. I kept asking myself the same questions. What went wrong? How did we get here? Was it my fault? But with each question, the answer became clearer. It wasn't me. Caleb had been choosing Emily all along. He had been choosing her before we even got married, before I ever even knew she was still in the picture. The painful truth sank in with each passing day. Caleb never really loved me the way I deserved to be loved. He loved the idea of me, the idea of a perfect life with a perfect wife, but when it came down to it, his heart was always with someone else. And I couldn't keep holding on to that fantasy anymore. One night, after another lonely, sleepless evening, I was walking aimlessly around the house, trying to quiet the storm in my mind when I saw it. The photo, the one I had ignored for weeks. It was from Caleb. The caption, as usual, was an apology, a promise. He had posted a picture of us, the way we used to be, smiling at a family event, laughing in the sun. It looked perfect. The perfect life, the perfect couple. But now, all I could see was the lie. I opened the message he had sent with it. I miss this, Emilia. I miss us. I know I've hurt you, but please, don't give up on me. I can't lose you. Not like this. I can't lose you. The words sent a jolt of emotion through me, anger, confusion, sadness, all at once. How dare he? How dare he think he could just send a picture of us, a picture of something that wasn't real, and expect it to fix everything? How could he think that after everything, I would just forgive him and let him back in? But even as I thought that, my heart twisted in a way I couldn't control. I missed him too. The old Caleb, the man I thought I knew, the man I thought would always be there for me. I had been so wrapped up in the betrayal, in the hurt, that I hadn't realized how much I still loved the person I had married. But I had to be honest with myself. That person was gone, and holding on to a ghost wouldn't bring him back. I stared at the phone in my hands for what felt like hours, torn between the hurt and the pull of the past. And then, with trembling fingers, I did the one thing I knew I had to do. I deleted the photo. I deleted the message. I deleted Caleb. And for the first time in a long time, I felt the silence of the house in a different way. Not suffocating, not painful, but freeing. The following days were hard, but they were necessary. I felt raw, exposed, but I also felt stronger than I had in a long time. I stopped checking my phone for messages from Caleb. I stopped wondering when he would finally wake up and see what he was losing. I stopped waiting for the apology that would never come. I realized that I didn't need him. I didn't need the life I thought we had built together. I could build my own, and it didn't have to include him. The nights were still lonely, but I learned how to fill them with something else. With books, with walks, with new hobbies I never had time for. I started to rediscover the woman I had been before Caleb, before the love I had thought was everything. And as the days passed, I realized that I wasn't just moving on from him. I was moving on from the version of myself that had needed him to define who I was. I was stronger now. I was finally starting to heal. But then, one evening, the phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't help myself. It was Caleb. I know I've hurt you, but please, Emilia, I'm begging you, come back. We can fix this. I need you. The words were like acid in my veins. They burned, they hurt. I almost dropped my phone. I felt the anger rise inside me again, the need to scream at him for all the times he had hurt me, all the ways he had lied to me. But I didn't. Instead, I stared at the screen, my heart racing. And then, for the first time, I did the hardest thing I had ever done. I blocked him. The days blurred together after I blocked Caleb. It felt like I had taken back some control, but at the same time, the silence was deafening. I'd spent so many years trying to make sense of his actions, trying to justify his neglect, and now that I had finally made a decision for myself, I was left with the haunting question, was it the right one? I kept asking myself that as I navigated through the emptiness of my home. The house felt too large, too quiet, too full of ghosts that were never really mine. Memories of Caleb, his touch, his promises to never leave me, they lingered in every room. I couldn't escape them. They had been my life for so long, it was hard to remember what it felt like to live for me. But as I moved through the days, I started to realize something. The weight that had once crushed me, the weight of him, of our broken marriage, of the endless cycle of hurt was beginning to lift. I wasn't free yet, not completely, but every step away from him was a step toward finding who I was again. I was learning that it wasn't about moving on from him, but moving on from the version of myself that had been tied to him. The desperate woman who had stayed despite everything, the one who had clung to a false hope. I was finally stepping into my own skin again. But even as I felt the glimmer of hope, the darkness still loomed. The hurt still bled. I came home one evening after a late meeting at work, exhausted, yet strangely calm. The last few days had been filled with quiet determination. I had even started to pick up the pieces of my old life, the old hobbies I had abandoned, the friends I had lost touch with, the parts of myself I had buried so deep to fit into a role Caleb had written for me. But as I walked into my home, there was something that caught my eye on the coffee table. A note. My heart skipped a beat. I immediately knew it wasn't from Emily or anyone else. It was from Caleb. Emilia, I can't keep living like this. I need to see you. We can't leave things like this. Please, just one last time. Come to the place where it all started. The park. I'll be waiting." I stared at the note, the words blurring before my eyes. My pulse quickened, and for a split second, I felt that old pull, the one that had kept me tied to him for years. What if he had finally realized what he lost? What if this time, he meant it? What if I had been wrong? But then, just as quickly, the anger hit me. The clarity I had been trying to hold on to was slipping. No, he had made his choice. He had always made his choice. I felt the strength I had been building, the walls I had been putting up, start to crack. It was so easy to fall back into the trap. So easy to believe that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't let him pull me back into that hell. I turned away from the note, not even glancing at it one more time. I wasn't going to the park. I wasn't going to give him that. He had already taken too much of me. The moment I turned my back on it, I heard the familiar sound of a car door slam outside. I froze. My heart stopped for a moment. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to face him again. But the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, was enough to drag me back to reality. I didn't have to look to know it was him. I stood still, waiting for the inevitable knock on the door. And when it came, my body tensed. I could feel my hands shaking, but I held myself steady. This is it, Emilia. The moment you've been dreading. The moment you finally have to face him. I took a deep breath and opened the door. There he was, Caleb. He looked different, more disheveled, more tired than I had ever seen him. His eyes, the ones I had once fallen in love with, were bloodshot and tired. But despite the weariness on his face, there was still that familiar look of desperation. He was standing in front of me, and I could feel the pull of his presence like gravity pulling me down. "Emilia," he said softly, his voice hoarse, almost pleading. "Please, I can't do this without you. I made a huge mistake, and I'm sorry. I need you." The words, those same tired words, were like poison. I need you. That phrase had broken me so many times before, but this time was different. "I don't need you, Caleb," I said, my voice steady but firm. "I don't need your apologies, your promises, or your lies. You've made your choice. You've always chosen Emily, and you can't just come back into my life and pretend like everything is okay." I watched him flinch, a flicker of pain crossing his face. It almost made me feel guilty. Almost. "I don't care what you think of me right now," he said, his voice shaky. "I just need you to know that I've changed. I'm not the same person anymore. I need you, Emilia. Please." I took a step back, closing the door halfway. "No, Caleb. You don't get to do this to me anymore. You don't get to break my heart over and over again and then come back like nothing happened." His hand shot out to stop the door from closing completely. "Emilia, please. Please don't do this. I'm sorry. I never meant for it to be like this." I pushed his hand away, my heart hammering in my chest, but there was no fear in me anymore. Just anger. "I'm done with you. I'm done with your apologies. I'm done being your second choice." And with that, I closed the door in his face, the sound of it slamming echoing in my ears like a final nail in the coffin. I stood there for a moment, my hands still on the doorknob, my breath coming in shallow gasps. I had made my choice. For once, I chose me. The next few days were a blur of emotions, but they were different. This time, I wasn't drowning in self-doubt or hurt. I wasn't clinging to the hope that Caleb would suddenly wake up and realize what he had. No, this time, I was starting to breathe again. I was starting to understand what it meant to stand on my own defeat, without the weight of him pulling me down. But the loneliness was still there. It was quieter now though, less suffocating, more like a shadow I could step around. I wasn't completely free, but I was closer to it than I had been in a long time. I had started to spend more time with people who didn't carry the heavy baggage of Caleb and Emily. I called my friends, people I had pushed away over the years because I was too consumed by my marriage to even notice. We laughed over coffee, over dinner, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was pretending to be someone else. But then, there was a night that changed everything. I was sitting in my living room, reading a book I had almost forgotten I loved, when the doorbell rang. My heart skipped a beat, and my mind immediately went to Caleb. I had cut him out. I had made it clear that I was done with him. So why would he come back now? I opened the door, and there, standing in front of me, was Julian Rhodes's Caleb's father. He didn't say anything at first. He just stood there, looking at me with a mixture of regret and sadness. I couldn't tell if he was disappointed in me or just feeling the weight of the situation himself. "Julian?" I asked, my voice uncertain. "What are you doing here?" He cleared his throat, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Emilia," he started, his voice soft. "I know this isn't easy for you. I can't speak for Caleb, but I think he's finally realizing what he's lost." My heart stopped for a moment. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to face him again. But the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, was enough to drag me back to reality. I didn't have to look to know it was him. I stood still, waiting for the inevitable knock on the door. And when it came, my body tensed. I could feel my hands shaking, but I held myself steady. "This is it, Emilia. The moment you've been dreading. The moment you finally have to face him." I took a deep breath and opened the door. There he was, Caleb. He looked different, more disheveled, more tired than I had ever seen him. His eyes, the ones I had once fallen in love with, were bloodshot and tired. But despite the weariness on his face, there was still that familiar look of desperation. He was standing in front of me, and I could feel the pull of his presence like gravity pulling me down. "Emilia," he said softly, his voice hoarse, almost pleading. "Please, I can't do this without you. I made a huge mistake, and I'm sorry. I need you." The words, those same tired words, were like poison. "I need you." That phrase had broken me so many times before, but this time was different. "I don't need you, Caleb," I said, my voice steady but firm. "I don't need your apologies, your promises, or your lies. You've made your choice. You've always chosen Emily, and you can't just come back into my life and pretend like everything is okay." I watched him flinch, a flicker of pain crossing his face. It almost made me feel guilty. Almost. "I don't care what you think of me right now," he said, his voice shaky. "I just need you to know that I've changed. I'm not the same person anymore. I need you, Emilia. Please." I took a step back, closing the door halfway. "No, Caleb. You don't get to do this to me anymore. You don't get to break my heart over and over again and then come back like nothing happened." His hand shot out to stop the door from closing completely. "Emilia, please. Please don't do this. I'm sorry. I never meant for it to be like this." I pushed his hand away, my heart hammering in my chest, but there was no fear in me anymore. Just anger. "I'm done with you. I'm done with your apologies. I'm done being your second choice." And with that, I closed the door in his face, the sound of it slamming echoing in my ears like a final nail in the coffin. I stood there for a moment, my hands still on the doorknob, my breath coming in shallow gasps. I had made my choice. For once, I chose me. The next few days were a blur of emotions, but they were different. This time, I wasn't drowning in self-doubt or hurt. I wasn't clinging to the hope that Caleb would suddenly wake up and realize what he had. No, this time, I was starting to breathe again. I was starting to understand what it meant to stand on my own defeat, without the weight of him pulling me down. But the loneliness was still there. It was quieter now though, less suffocating, more like a shadow I could step around. I wasn't completely free, but I was closer to it than I had been in a long time. I had started to spend more time with people who didn't carry the heavy baggage of Caleb and Emily. I called my friends, people I had pushed away over the years because I was too consumed by my marriage to even notice. We laughed over coffee, over dinner, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was pretending to be someone else. But then, there was a night that changed everything. I was sitting in my living room, reading a book I had almost forgotten I loved, when the doorbell rang. My heart skipped a beat, and my mind immediately went to Caleb. I had cut him out. I had made it clear that I was done with him. So why would he come back now? I opened the door, and there, standing in front of me, was Julian Rhodes's Caleb's father. He didn't say anything at first. He just stood there, looking at me with a mixture of regret and sadness. I couldn't tell if he was disappointed in me or just feeling the weight of the situation himself. "Julian?" I asked, my voice uncertain. "What are you doing here?" He cleared his throat, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Emilia," he started, his voice soft. "I know this isn't easy for you. I can't speak for Caleb, but I think he's finally realizing what he's lost." I stared at him, feeling a rush of anger, but I held it back. What does he expect from me now, Julian? What does he want me to do? I'm the one who's been left behind. I'm the one who's been abandoned time and time again. And now he wants me to just take him back? After everything? I saw the pain in his eyes, the helplessness, but I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for him. I didn't want to be anyone's second choice anymore. I didn't want to be anyone's afterthought. Emilia, I'm not asking you to forgive him, Julian said quietly, but I am asking you to understand. Caleb, he's made a mess of things. He's hurt you, and he can never take that back. But he has lost something that he didn't even realize he needed until it was too late. I shook my head. I've heard enough of his excuses, Julian. I don't need to hear that he's sorry again. He's been sorry for years. He's been sorry while he was choosing Emily. He's been sorry while I was breaking, and I'm done being sorry with him. Julian took a deep breath, looking at me with an intensity I didn't expect. You're right. He's been a fool, and he knows it. But Emilia, don't let him ruin your life forever. You deserve happiness. You deserve someone who chooses you, not someone who leaves you for someone else. I wanted to scream, to tell him that Caleb's mistakes were not mine to fix, that I had no obligation to help him heal. But the words caught in my throat. I didn't want to let Caleb ruin me. I didn't want to let his mistakes define the rest of my life. But even as I stood there, with Julian's words echoing in my mind, I knew something had shifted. I couldn't move forward if I kept looking back. I'm done with Caleb, I said, my voice shaking with certainty. I can't keep living in the past. I'm done trying to fix him. I'm done trying to save him from himself. I'm done trying to be someone I'm not. It's over. Julian's eyes softened as he nodded slowly. I respect that, Emilia, but you should know Caleb. He'll always regret losing you. And I think, deep down, he knows he never deserved you. I stood there, looking at him, not knowing what to say. I didn't need his validation. I didn't need Caleb's. For the first time in years, I realized that I didn't need anyone to validate my worth. The next few weeks passed in a haze of work, self-care, and moments of reflection. There were still times when the weight of everything felt too heavy. There were still moments when I wondered if I had made the right decision. But those moments were fleeting now. They didn't define me. One evening, I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, when I saw it. Caleb had posted a new message. It was a picture of us, but this time, there was no caption, just a photo of him standing in front of the park where we had first met, the place that had meant so much to us. And beneath the photo, a single sentence, I let the best thing I ever had slip away. I stared at it, my heart pounding in my chest. For a moment, I thought I might respond. I thought maybe, just maybe, I could open that door one last time. But I didn't. Instead, I closed my phone and smiled. I was finally free.